Okay, Jeff. So you're going to show us how to replace a bladder on a Duotone 6-meter wing?
Yes.
What was the issue with it?
I believe there was leaking at the base of the valve. It's kind of a known issue with.
So we got a new bladder from Airtime.
Yep.
So Airtime has the replacement bladders available.
Yeah, just be careful when you open this. There's like staples here, so you don't want to snag the bladder on the staples. So you probably should get a scissors and open this up.
Yeah.
Just gonna get it out here and make sure we don't snag it on the staples. So you want to get those away.
Don't want to get stapled.
Yeah. So all the Airtime stuff always comes stapled.
So Airtime, if you're watching this, maybe do this without staples, huh?
Yeah. So we got the bladder here. And the nice thing about the Airtime ones are they are built oversized. So in other words, they use more material than the OEM, so they're actually larger than the casing. So it expands to fill, so you never have issues with the thing being too short or whatever. And that's especially good in the struts. Some of the struts on the wings, they don't fill up in the pockets, but if you got extra material that can stretch into there, then that makes them a little stronger. There's no drawback to it being too big. Okay, so first thing we gotta do is take the old one out. So we just gotta unscrew this here. Right here, this holds the valve in. And then it just pushes in. And then the same with the dump valve, you just undo this here. And you just push it in. And we'll look at this bladder when we take it out to see if we can see anything. And then what we're gonna do is pull the bladder out from this little pocket here. So there's a zipper, just open it up. There's a flap here, so we're gonna talk about this a little now. When you close the zipper, you don't want the flap to be like this because it's protecting the bladder from the zipper. So always make sure the flap is open all the way like that, and then covering the zipper, so when you close it, the flap protects the zipper from the bladder, or bladder from the zipper.
Right, no sharp edges there.
Yep.
Makes sense.
So we're gonna pull it out. The first thing you gotta do is open this thing up. There's a little Velcro square there. So we're gonna undo that, open this up. And we're gonna take the tail end of this bladder out. It's kind of buried in there somewhere. You gotta pull it out through the, where'd it go? Oh, it's right here. It should be right at the end, so I don't know what happened here. Maybe when it rolled up it got pulled away from the end, but we'll pull it out here. I got it now. So you gotta make sure the string goes back through this little extra sleeve at the end, because you see this sleeve here is like separate. So sometimes people pull the bladder out from here, but you gotta pull it out from the end of the sleeve, because at the end what happens is you put the bladder like this and you fold it over and you tuck it in. So it's gotta be in this sleeve. If it's outside of the sleeve, I've seen people do that. So if it's outside and you fold this thing over, it's gonna come out and it's gonna pop. Yeah, so we just got a little lark's head here on this piece of line, so you just do a lark. This is called a lark's head when you make a loop like this over it. And then when you pull it, it tightens like that. So we put the bladder in here, and actually I did it wrong. So this is a mistake you could make. So you want this string, like I was talking about earlier, it's got to go through the sleeve here. So you can do this by pulling the bladder through the sleeve and then putting it on again. So I've been doing this for like 15 years, fixing kites.
You've been fixing a lot of kites.
Yeah.
But you said the main thing that happens with the kites is that valve delaminates after
Yeah.
a few years, right?
Yeah. So
And then you replace the valve.
yeah, I just glue on a new one. Just peel and stick.
But it seems like these wings, we have a lot more bladder issues than with
Yes.
kites, right?
Yes, and
So
I'm not sure
You're
why.
not sure why? Is it
I
because
know.
we have more higher inflation, or?
No, it's the same, usually 7-8 psi. So we're putting a weight here so that when I pull the end here, this thing doesn't curl up.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not sure why there's so many bladder issues. I guess it could be because wings are designed a little differently than kites. There's a little different pressure points, but it's the same companies making the wings as the kite, so you should be familiar with this stuff. So you see we're pulling this thing out here, and then we got the string here, so we're good to go. So we're gonna, we only got one string here, so we're gonna pull in one side at a time. So the next thing is you gotta make sure the thing is all flat, so when you pull it in, it's gonna be straight and not twisted. So the hardest part about this whole thing is pulling the bladder in so it doesn't twist. You want it to go in flat, so that when because if you blow up it and get a twist, it's not gonna work.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the balloons that that they have at the kids' birthdays and stuff like that. When
It's
you
gonna
twist
look-
them,
yep.
then it creates pressure points on the bladder.
It's
right?
gonna look exactly like that if you twist it.
Yeah.
It's gonna have a kink in it. So
Okay.
here's the new one. It should match exactly the same. Airtime's really good about making this stuff perfect, so I've never had problems with the thing fitting. So here's what we're gonna do.
And this material, it's kind of like a stretchy. Feels a little bit like a condom almost. Right?
Yeah, it's pretty similar,
It's
a
like
little thicker.
thicker material.
Yeah, it's polyurethane.
But it's not very
PU.
thick though. It's
No.
maybe just like a Ziploc bag, like a gallon Ziploc
Yep,
bag.
it's
maybe
pretty similar, but it's a little more pliable.
Yeah, it definitely has more flexibility.
So when we pull it in, we're gonna do this. We're gonna fold it like this. So when you pull it in, it pulls in straight. So you fold it like this over itself. So when you pull it in, it goes in good.
So
and-
and you said the bladder is basically oversized, right?
Yeah. So if
So-
you compare it,
So
like we'll put this.
It's really held in place by the nylon sleeve.
Yes, yes.
Not, it's like this what's holding the pressure, not the bladder. itself,
Right, and so
Yeah.
this, I guess this one's pretty big too, but these are usually a little bigger. So what you want to note too is there's a seam usually right here, and so when you pull it out the other end, you want to make sure the seam is, we're going to have it facing this way towards the trailing edge of the kite. So if you happen to pull it in and it twists and you notice when you're folding it over, the seam's on that side, then you got it wrong. So you got to make
Okay.
sure when you bring it out the other end, the seam's on the bottom
Okay,
here.
so the seam he's talking about is this end, yeah.
Yep.
There's a seam. This,
Yep.
this side is just folded.
Right, exactly.
So if it twists, you know that it's twisted over.
Right,
Okay.
so we'll make this a nice platform for this thing to go in. Make sure this hole is nice and big so you can pull it in. And I gotta loop this lark's head around it. Okay, we're gonna tighten this around, and then you wanna make sure there's enough meat on the end so when you pull, it doesn't slip through, you know. So we're gonna just get it started there, like that. And then, I'm gonna move the weight to over here, so that that doesn't move. And then what I do when I pull it in is I lift this part up so the curve is like that, because when you pull it in just like this flat, it might twist, so it's less chance of a twist if you kind of make it like that so you can feed it flat. I usually put my leg over here to keep it straight, and then we're gonna just pull it in. Nice and easy, you know, you don't wanna force it. So I can feel it coming by my foot there. Comes all the way through here. And I got the end already. So you can see this one is a little oversized because we haven't even gotten the valve to the puka, and we already got the tail in here. So we got the seam, see it's on the bottom. So the seam is facing that way, which is what we want. That's super important. And if you pull it in wrong and let's double twist and the seam's still on the bottom, but you actually twisted it twice, you'll notice when you blow it up. So when you first blow it up, you want to do it kind of slow, just in case you have a twist like that. Because if it has a bad twist and you blow it up hard, it's gonna pop. So then you push this tail end of the bladder in like that, so it matches this little thing here. And then we're gonna match this Velcro with that Velcro. Put it in there and make sure it's sealed, it's matching good, and the Velcro's all put on there real good, and then this tail end can go in there, and that's good to go right there. So then what we're gonna do now is gotta do the other side.
So you need the string over there now. Huh?
Yep. So we're gonna move that there. Thank you. And we're going to. Okay, I gotta move back here. So we're gonna put this bladder not like this on this side. The same thing. We're gonna fold it over itself and get it ready to pull in. So and you saw how good the last one pulled in when you did do this folding deal.
Yeah.
And then we got to get it behind the hole. So we're going to pull this one out now. We're going to attach our string here. Put this on here. Go to it. And then we're going to attach the string. And we got the tail here where it's supposed to be. Attach our string here. So this is, a lot of your wings have the inflatable strut. So in the leading edge and the strut are attached by a little hose. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of you guys probably have that type out there. So a little different from this one, it just has a leading edge. And so what you're gonna have to do, we didn't have to do on this one, was that hose that goes to the strut, you're gonna have to take that apart too. And like the Duotone units are like that, they have a thing there. So that, but we don't have to do that, just wanted to mention that.
Right.
And so we're gonna pull this out. This one you gotta clear the valve, so there comes the valve. Comes out of there.
So, and this bladder you had already taken out and tested,
Yeah,
right? And then at low pressure there was no leak.
Yeah.
But I'll try to show the video that the customer sent us showing the leak right by it was actually, I'm pretty sure it was by the deflation valve.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was bubbling on the kind of on the base of the valve.
Yeah, I've seen that before on another one. So let's just take a look at that. I mean, here's so this thing looks like it's sealed on there pretty good, and so does the deflation valve actually. Here it is.
Somehow there was a leak or something.
I mean, it looks on there pretty good to me, but you know, it could be. So sometimes when I look at kites, like I can see, so you can see the bottom here, it's heat sealed onto the bladder, this other valve thing, and sometimes you can see little separations or like little air channels going out through where the heat seal is supposed to be, and that's where the air leaks out. But I don't really see anything here, so you know, I'm not quite sure what happened.
Okay.
But we can play with this later.
So it might be repairable, yeah.
I tried to fix another one, I couldn't. So I tried to fix another one by replacing the valve, and I couldn't. So so now we're gonna pull this in.
Daniel.
Here comes Daniel. So he's our #1 rider on Oahu.
No way. When we started making these videos, Daniel was a total greenhorn beginner. And now he's like showing us off.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're trying to make sure we can.
Trying to keep up with Daniel.
So yeah, we're lining this thing all up, and then we're gonna pull it in just like we pulled the other one in. So I can feel it by my foot now, so it's coming. And then, you got to keep your eye on that hole there, because if this bladder is big, but sometimes when you're pulling, the valve will come there, and you got to stop pulling and shove the valve in that little hole. But this bladder is super long, so it's oversized like I was talking about before.
So there's no disadvantage to making it too big?
No disadvantage. I mean, there is a limit, but if it's like a foot or two longer, it's not really an issue because it'll just bunch up inside and it's actually stronger that way. Yeah. So here we got the seam on that side, which is what we wanted to do again. So we make sure this thing's all straight, line this up with the end, match up the Velcros. See, I got make sure all the Velcro is perfectly matched, so you don't want this thing coming apart because that's holding your whole. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna pull these things in, and some this one doesn't, and I don't really think it's necessary, but some bladders have a sleeve, an extra protective sleeve. So, like this one does. You see, there's an extra sleeve here. So when you put it in, you got to make sure that, like if you bought an OEM replacement, it would have this sleeve on it, and then this hole's got to go through the hole in the sleeve. But this one doesn't have. I don't really think the sleeve's necessary. It works pretty good without it. I think some have. I would say like when all the kites I fix, some like maybe 80% or 70% don't have the sleeve, and like 10 or 20 do. So it's kind of like, you know, it's an extra protective thing, but it's not super necessary. So then we're pulling this thing in. We've got to use your fingers to find the valves, and then.
So Jeff's.
Oh, here it is, right here.
You've been doing this for years, and
so we got to take this off.
You're giving away all your secrets now.
That's okay. I hate doing this. So if you guys can do it yourself, more power to you.
All right.
I mean, I hate fixing kites.
But
I'm the only guy who does it.
Yeah, he's like the only guy on the island who does it, and he's always busy with it.
So here we pull this thing in, and then make sure it's lined up this way. Push it this way, and so we're ready to pump now.
This is kind of, I think it's kind of silly. I never use it, like I never open it, but it's another potential place for it to leak. So
yeah, it's
I'd
good
rather not have that, but
yeah, the Velcro is good to have. Are you talking about the Velcro or the plug?
No, just the plug.
Oh yeah, it's not necessary.
I would have just left this out. Like I don't know why I do it until it even puts that.
Yeah, it's not needed. No.
Just another place where it can cause issues like this one.
Yep, exactly. I agree with that.
And so only the main valve has this ring.
Yes,
the
so
screw-on ring. This one doesn't have any.
Yeah, so we're gonna put this on. You can even put back this one if you want to match the color. So this is another thing here with the Duotones. It has these little tabs here. Yeah, so you got to make sure they line up with those tabs there.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna put that on. There, see, it's all lined up, the notches, and they're different sizes, these notches, so you know you got it like not 180.
Oh, not twisted.
Yeah, so that's a good kind of cool thing. So we're gonna make the matching one, so it looks better.
Yeah, so it came with that darker blue.
Yeah, and it's a. Okay, so we're getting it on pretty tight there, and we're pushing this thing in, and remember, we want to make sure this flap goes open or covers the whole of the zipper like that. So see that it's all covered. You can't zipper and snag the bladder, so it's good to go there. And it's ready to blow up.
Cool.
So you got a pump? Blow it up.
Yep. Should have that.
Okay, so this valve, it's okay. Duotone users, make sure you get this before you bring it back to Rob. Make sure you do, and don't blame the valve. So this is release air, and counterclockwise is fill. So the reason they did that is so when you unscrew the hose that you pull it that way so that this thing stays shut. So when you're filling, make sure this thing is counterclockwise all the way.
Yeah, it's closed.
Yeah, so we're gonna put this in. It's good to keep kind of shaking it out and stuff. Although I don't think that's an issue for this one. Yeah, it's got a little thing there, but there's a little thing. You can kind of straighten it out like this.
really the nylon cover that gives it its shape. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the bladder is straight by itself, right?
Yeah. Trickle.
Oh, it came off.
And then if it has these little crinkles like this, you know, if it's really bad, like this one's okay, but if it's really bad, like it's crinkling a lot, then deflate it and then shake it out and then inflate it again, and you should be all right. But this one looks all good. Looks pretty good. I think you're good.
All good?
Yeah, I think it's good.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
All right, so that's how you replace the bladder on the Duotone Echo wing.
Or any wing really.
Any wing.
Yeah, any wing.
And we're gonna talk about some more other wing repairs that Jeff did. Right. So Jeff's been busy repairing wing foil bladders. It seems like a lot of people are having issues with bladders, including myself. I recently had one of the wings blow out. Let's talk a little bit about the main issues that you've been seeing on wing repairs. Like what kind of stuff happens?
So, yeah, there's a couple, two main things. One is the strut bladder is not going up in the pockets where it wraps around the leading edge, and so that causes the thing to burst, because if it doesn't go up, it folds, and then it can't fill the void. So this part where it's folded kind of tries to expand in the pocket and it pops. And the other thing we've been seeing is just some issues straight from the factory, valves.
So there's quite a few different repairs in the video that you'll see, and they're kind of sped up. It's either 2 or 4 times speed, just to, so it doesn't take forever. But we'll down below. I also show the shortcuts to the different repairs. So if you only want to see one certain type of repair, you can check it. But my wing kind of blew up just like that when I touched the tip of the wing in the 360. It ripped the top of the tip of the wing kind of ripped off, and the bladder, I guess, popped out and exploded. And I was out in the surf, and my wing just went.
Yeah.
All the air went out, and then I had to paddle in pretty far. I had to paddle in like for half an hour or something, pretty far outside, and definitely frustrating when that happens. But I mean, knock on wood, it's only happened to me once so far in over a year of wing foiling. I've only had one bladder failure. But right here, you can see I kind of tipped the wing tip into the water a little bit to help me come around more quickly, and that's, I guess, when it touched the water, one of the seams in the wing was kind of weak, and it just ripped open, and I think that's the first repair you're doing here, right?
Right, so that's where it blew. And so what I do is I clean it first with denatured alcohol, make sure the patch is going to stick. And the key is to get a nice flat surface to stick the patch to, so you don't want any kind of air channels to form, so you got to stick the patch on super flat. So here you see I'm using a trophy from, I don't know what race.
Yeah, from the multi-race.
Maybe. And then, so I'm trying to get it pretty flat, you see, so right there.
And it's good to have like a curved
yeah, it seems to be, because then I can roll one side on and then the other side. And here I'm putting a piece of like plastic inside, because, or spare bladder sheet inside, because if I put the patch over there, it's going to stick to the other side. So I'm putting that in there for the patch to stick on, so it doesn't stick to on the other side. So I don't do that often that I have to do this.
It's because the hole's so big.
The hole's so big, yeah.
Stick to the other side.
Yeah, and I have repaired holes like bigger than that, but usually they're like bulges, not total tear-outs like that. That's unusual.
So is that like, for a big hole like that to form, is there actually a piece of plastic missing?
Yeah, I think so, and I don't know how that happened. That's pretty rare. I haven't really seen that before, but it's possible that it just blew out and it tore, and you're missing that whole piece. So I mean, it's important at this stage to try to make the thing super flat and just practice with it. Like here, I'm kind of doing a dry. Well, I didn't do a dry one. Sometimes I put the patch over as a dry one. So here, I'm peeling the patch off, and I don't peel it off all the way. I peel it halfway, and so like a sticker, I put on half, and then I peel off the other half after. And so this is the moment of truth where you try to get it on without any creases and get it perfectly flat.
Because if there's little folds in the plastic, then it won't seal.
It's not going to work, and you only get one shot at this. If you put it on wrong, you're done, because you can't take it off. So it's pretty tricky. And so I'm also creasing it. If you can see, I'm creasing the middle of the patch so that it doesn't bend over and fall onto the material. So just go for it. And then, so I smooth it from side to side and also from left to right. And I was able to do this one really good. And I got it on there with no air channels or creases.
So that material is from Tear Aid?
Yep, Tear Aid. I mean, you can buy that online or you can get it in Rob's store.
Yeah, we'll put the link down below, but we just got a big roll of it at our shop, so we can sell like sections of it too.
Yeah, it's really good. It's if you get that on there good, the bladder's not going to have any issues for it for the rest of its life. And so here you see I'm turning it back right side out. I had to turn it inside out to put that patch on. There's a little sleeve, protective sleeve on the inside. Turn it back right side. Put the sleeve back on, and then you're stuffing it in, and you want it to, the end of the bladder to match the end of that little sleeve there. So, and then you're going to fold it over. And so there's extra material there, so I'm shaking it to get it in there, and then fold it over, and then there's a little Velcro patch there, and you match the Velcro up and make sure it's engaged fully.
And that little flap is the one that ripped on my wing, and I had to get Brenda to re-sew it. Like she had to take it apart pretty much and re-sew the flap at the end.
So we're thinking the seam, the sewing was too close to the edge of the material, and so it kind of just gave way. This is what happened there.
Alright, so that was that repair. We're going to get into the next one. This is with the Duotone unit, which is a Duotone that has a center strut. And
yeah, so this is what, like some of the other brands who have issues with filling the pocket, they should do this. So they put a pull string to make sure the bladder goes all the way up into the pocket, and then you tie it off so the bladder never can go away from that pocket. You can modify the wing to do this by burning a hole with a soldering iron and pulling it in with a string, and then you tie it off. So here it's kind of a pain, but you got to disengage the string. It's tied onto this little loop. So you take that off the loop, then I have to tie a knot in it so that I can put a lark's head on it. And so here you see me making a lark's head to put on that string, and that thing won't pull off. And so I got one on the top and the bottom because it pulls into two pockets. And so now I'm gonna pull it out, and it's gonna
so this is the center strut of the wing,
right?
But yeah, I guess that's what Daniel was saying, that on the wasp that happens a lot.
Yes.
It kind of goes in incorrectly.
Yes.
And then it blows out at the tip there.
Yep. So here I gotta gotta get it started by pushing that in, and you gotta be careful not to poke the bladder when you're doing this. But yeah, the hole that string is coming out is tiny, so I gotta stuff all this string in there in order to pull the bladder out for the other end. So you're gonna use these strings to pull the bladder back in, basically. So you don't have to put a string around the nipple, which is the usual way you do it, because it has these pull strings. So if you have a wasp and you're having continual issues, you might want to get it modified like how Duotone is doing. I think they're really smart to do this because they won't have issues in the future. And I don't know why this strut had problems. You'll see the repair.
So this one was a brand new wing.
Yeah, it had a pinch flat. I'm not sure why.
And on the first time using it, it had a blowout, I guess.
So there might have been a wrinkle right there, even though they had the pull strings. So you can see, different from Rob's blowout, this one still has material there. I just have to put a patch over it, and I don't have to put something underneath it.
So is this a small hole?
Yeah, just a small hole from that tear. So again, a same process, clean with denatured alcohol, and then I'm folding it back halfway and then creasing it, and then this is a little easier to get perfect. I mean, you just work it on there, and it was no problem. Got it all flat, no air channels. Then I had to do one on each side. There was a little hole on each side, kind of like similar to a pinch flat on a bike, although I think it was just, it just must have had some kind of fold or crease in it, even though it was pulled all the way in. And I think when there's a tip from manufacturers on your first blow up, you want to shake the tail of the strut as you blow it up, progressively shake, blow, and then you make sure the thing doesn't have any creases on it. I think Armstrong has a really good video on that on their website, First Use, and has some good tips on blowing up your wing for the first time.
So they don't do this at the factory?
They're
Supposed to.
they do. I think they do, but I don't know. Who knows? In transit, it might have gotten. When you roll it up, sometimes it puts it in weird ways. So here's another tip for you wingers: is don't roll your wing up too tight because it can pull the bladders away from where they're supposed to be. Just fold it loosely. Like I don't even put my wings back in the factory bag it came with because they're all too small in my opinion. So I just put it in a big cardboard box in my van, and I just, when I get home, I hang it up to dry, and then I just put it back in the cardboard box when I go to the beach, and I've never had issues with bladders. And when you hang it up to dry for these kind of wings, it's kind of better to hang it by the tail of the strut instead of the leading edge, because then the bladder won't fall down.
Oh, when it's
Yeah,
deflated.
yeah. And so here again, you push the bladder in all the way so the end matches up. Fold it over, make sure the Velcro matches, and then you're good to go. You got to pull back in the valves. So here, I got another section. You didn't put it in here, I see, but I got a section of how to take apart the tube that goes from the leading edge to the strut. And so you basically just do it reverse of how you're seeing.
I think it shows it how you put it back together.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so there's a little, on these Duotones, it's pretty nice actually the way, I mean, Duotone uses top-notch materials. So you'll see when I'm putting it back together, there's a little clip that goes at the very last step that clips the tube onto the valve, and it's pretty slick. So here I am testing it before I put the tube on. I just put the pump onto the valve itself, and then then I'm putting the valve back on, and you can see here the little clip that goes and clips onto the valve and the tube, and so it's a snap clip, and to get it off, use a screwdriver to
looks a little bit thicker tube than on the ozone.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. And here I'm taking off the pull string on that line there that's connected to the bladder, and then I tie it back off like how they tied it to that little tab, and then they had it stuffed in so it doesn't get in the way, and be careful not to poke the strut when you stuff it back in.
Yeah, but basically those strings will hold the bladder in place when
Yep.
it's deflated, so it doesn't crinkle up, and then I think that's the big issue with the
Yep.
ozone ones is
Yep.
that if the bladder folds.
Yep, they fall out of those pockets, and that'll keep it in the pocket there. So it's a good feature they added. They're thinking when they made this one.
It just takes more time to take it out. And
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, you shouldn't have to fix it.
Yeah.
I think maybe this one, if you would have shaken it like that Armstrong video shows, it might not have had an issue on the first blow up.
Okay.
Yeah. And so here it is, taking apart that little clip. Yes, this is where I did it at the start, but yeah, and then you pushing to get the thing out, you got to push these things in. And then again, the dump valve, which is kind of a nice feature too. It has a dump valve on the strut. It'll deflate faster. Just push it in before you pull the thing out, and then that step came before I pulled the strut out.
Oh, and somehow I got the video.
Yeah,
reversed.
and then test, blow it up slow, and then it's good to go.
All right, so that was the Duotone unit strut repair. What's the next one? I think. This
one I wanted to show, and there's nothing wrong with this wing, but I just wanted to show how you have to take it apart and push the nipple back in. It's a little difficult. So this is if it doesn't have those little pull strings. So you're gonna have to push this nipple in, and it's not easy to do sometimes. And then you're gonna attach the pull string to that valve instead of to the other strings you saw on the Duotone. So on most kites, this is what you're going to have to end up doing. So you can see I'm having a little trouble pushing that thing, and it's got these channels that lock onto the strut. So, and then you got to put the pull string on the valve instead of on those other little strings you saw on the Duotone, and then you just pull it out this way. So this is going through just taking the strut out and putting it back in, although there wasn't any hole in it. I just did it for demonstration purposes.
And you said on the F1 swing that less likely to have issues in the front because it's not as bent.
Right, it doesn't wrap around the leading edge. It kind of 90s to the leading edge. So,
Yeah.
so here I pull it out. So I'm going to just put it right back in. So there's a key step here. You got to turn the top inside out on itself. Otherwise it'll fold when you pull it in. So kind of like how you put your socks in the drawer, you turn it inside out on itself. Then you stuff the whole thing in to get it started, and you make sure it's all straight as you pull it in. And here you see me stepping on the tail so it can get it in. And so you pull all the way till the valve comes out to the top, and then you leave the see, I got a weight on the end so I can pull it. But you leave that string on so you can pull the nipple out and then latch it, get the that kind of channel to latch onto the strut material. So it's kind of like a C, and the valve has like a C channel on it, and then it has to, the bladder, the casing has to go inside that C channel. So it's pretty, you got to just tug on it to get it to seat correctly. And so if you look at your kite closely, you'll see that it's kind of just overlapping onto the kite itself, the wing itself. So there,
there's like a lip around.
yeah, exactly. That's a better description. There's a lip around it, above and below the strut material, so that you pull the lip so it comes above, and then there's another lip that stays below, so it locks in on the kite. See, and then that first time I pulled it too hard, I pulled the whole thing through. So now I'm trying to do it again, and I just pull it gently, and so it just engages that lip, the upper lip. And there I got it. And then so this is what most of you will do if you ever end up replacing a strut. This is the method.
Now you can see why most of us will just give our wings to Jeff to fix it, because it's not that easy to do.
And then you got to put the tube back on. And so first, well, here we're going to tuck the end in, and you guys should, after all those other videos, you probably got this wired already. You just stick the thing in. Make sure it's protective sleeve is going in there. Ends match up with the casing. Shake it a little bit, get the excess material in, and then match the Velcro up, and you're good to go. And then I usually blow up, before I connect the tube, I blow up the bladder just to test it and make sure it seats properly. And here you're going to see where that top, where I turned it inside out, it's going to come blow out from the inside and fill up the end. So that's super important to, that's a trick that most people probably wouldn't do, but you got to turn the top inside out into itself. And so pushing the tube back on, and then this one has a little, that circular clip, you just push it on, and then you're done.
Alright, so that's taking out the strut on a F1 swing wing.
Yep, and that's should be similar to most of your other strut wings on the market. So, which is why I wanted to just demonstrate it.
Okay.
And so here what we're doing is we're just replacing the leading edge on a, that one was stuck on there. I had to get a little wrench action to take that part off. It unscrews off, and then you push these two valves in till you take the bladder out. This is a Duotone Echo.
Is that the same one we had in the shop?
Yes.
Like, okay,
yes.
So there you took it out to kind of see what's wrong with it?
Yeah, I was testing it. I was kind of checking it out, you know, what could be wrong. So this is, so you got a little weight on the end, so when I pull, then that part stays where it's supposed to stay. So here we go, wrapping the pull line onto the end of the bladder. Make sure you got enough material there so it doesn't slip off. Then you pull it out. And then make sure you pull it and get that string out so it doesn't go back in. Tie it off.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. And then do the other side, same process. Yeah, those are kite lines. They have a lark's head on them already. But you can just get any string and tie an overhand loop on it and then make a lark's head. And use it for a pull string, and using my pump for a weight so I can just pull it out. And so after I pulled it out, I blew it up, tested it. I couldn't find any leaks. So I wasn't quite sure what was going on.
So that's what you're saying. Sometimes the leak doesn't show up until it's at a higher pressure.
Yeah, and this is actually only the first time that's ever happened. Usually I can find a leak. Like usually if it has a slow leak, like someone will have poked it on a Kiavi thorn or something and you can't see the leak, you can't find it. There's no way you can find it in the kite. You have to take it out and blow it up. And I put it in a swimming pool and then you just see this little bubble going boop, 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 and you put a little patch on that and it's good to go. But this one I couldn't find anything. Like I even put the valves under the water and I couldn't see any leaking out of the valves, which is unusual. So that was taking it out, and then Rob has another video where we show putting it back in. Yeah. So here's sometimes people hand me wings and they don't put a pull string in it.
Oh, they pull it by.
Yeah. So here's how you feed a pull string in it. I just got a windsurf batten and I put the lark's head on the end and I just kind of feed the windsurf batten through. And so this is a trick. So just remember when you pull the bladder out to put a pull string on the end so I don't have to do this. And this is the old Duotone wing, so there's no pocket with zipper, so you got to pull it out from the end. So see, I fit the pull string all the way to the other side, and then we're gonna pull it out from there, and then you'll see the pull string come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to pull all the way through.
Yeah, and so here we're putting in a new bladder on this Duotone foil wing, and so I have to fold it on top of each other. That's the proper way to prepare it to go in. And then you take note, or here I'm marking it with an X because I don't know if this one had a seam, but when you pull it in, you want to make sure that X is still on the top when it comes out the other side so that you know it's not twisted. And so here I'm folding it end over end so as it feeds in it won't tangle or twist or whatever. It'll all feed in straight, and that side of the bladder always facing up. So I put a weight on there, start pulling from this end, and you can see it feeding in on the other side from the folds. It comes in real nice. Then when the valve goes in, you have to give it a little help and nudge in the valve. Then I can continue pulling after that. Oh, here I had to do the fold thing again because I didn't fold that part. Because it comes from the manufacturer rolled up. And see, I put an X on there just so that I know that's the right side up. But you can use a seam if there's a seam. I probably could have used a seam as an indicator on the other video. That's what we do. Bladder end matched up with the sleeve end right there. And then we're going to fold it, and then tuck it in. Give it a little, probably going to...
So you fold over the end a little?
Yep, fold. Make sure that the bladder and that sleeve fold over together.
Okay.
And then see, it's going to do the same process on this side. Stuff in the extra. And make sure the end matches. Fold it in, match up the Velcro, and then make sure the Velcro is fully engaged. And we're going to search for the valve. There's no zipper on this one, so you got to search for it and pull it out. See, I'm searching for where the valve is. There it is. Yeah, so then we got to get that lock ring on there. Where's the lock ring? There it is.
So and then those little X's that you made, you just make sure that they're both
exactly.
On the top side and the tips.
Yeah, which they were.
Yeah.
Just kind of went through that real fast.
Make sure that.
And I had that bottle there, that plastic bottle, so the thing wouldn't bend, and we pull in straighter. And so here we go, pumping it up, electric pump, which is a must tool for how many kites I fix. Yeah. And then, so it was a little crinkle, so I deflated it and kind of shook it out a little bit. Got the crinkles out, and then the second time blowing it up was good. So when you replace something, if it has little crinkles in it where the bladder's kind of snagged, then just deflate it, just shake it a little bit and reinflate it, and it should be good.
All right, guys. So thank you, Jeff, for sharing your knowledge and experience. I mean, that's really generous of you to show everyone how to do that. So if you don't have Jeff around to do it for you. This is how to do it, and just take your time. I guess it just looks like you really want to be, especially sticking that patch back on. You have to be really careful to do it right without getting wrinkles in there. Yeah. But thanks for watching, and And thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, you're welcome.
See you on the water.
Oh.
Give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we'll put out a new video every Saturday. Aloha.
Aloha.